Too much of anything, absolutely. So they did their dress check, and they passed their dress check. And each of the girls gave me a kiss on the cheek and said, "I love you." And they proceeded out. About 12 o'clock, midnight, I get a phone call from University Hospital, and I'm like, you know, this is strange. They asked if I was the mom of Crystal Bennett, and I said yes. They said, well, you need to get down to the hospital. We can't tell you what's going on the phone, but you need to get to the hospital. Well, immediately I fell to my knees. I said, God, I don't know what this is, but keep them, Lord. Got up, got my husband up, and we got dressed. We proceeded to the hospital. And still in my mind, all the way to the hospital, I'm thinking a car accident. You know, never in any lifetime would I have thought someone had shot and killed the girls. The bullet of an AK-47 went through the car door, went through Crystal's body, and lodged in the heart of her girlfriend, Taryn, sitting next to her. Both girls died. Never would I have imagined that.
Never thought that was the phone call you're getting. They
Absolutely
couldn't tell
not.
you on the phone what was going on. They just said get to the hospital, and this is the news that you hear. Now, what did you hear next? I know your next question was who did this, and so
at the hospital, you know, the kids, everyone had made it there and knew the word had spread it so quickly. We get to the hospital, and I'm met by the chaplain, and I'm trying to say to the doctor, okay, just tell me she's okay. And the doctor is streaming with tears and saying, no, I can't tell you that. And I'm still in disbelief that my child has been killed. Then you start to hear,
19, correct?
She was 19 and Taryn was 17. They both actually just had a birthday the same week. Then you start to hear, you know, the stories of what happened, and the police is just begging everyone to go home. And actually, it wasn't until the next day that I actually knew what happened to my child. And two boys were having what they called street beef at one another, and the girls were in the crossfire. Just never could it just was unbelievable, you know.
Now, let me ask you this quickly. So if they're out and they were going to the 4th of July fireworks event, and there's a lot of people out on the streets, right? And so these people that are having gunfire back and forth, there's witnesses who see who these people are who do the shooting, correct?
Absolutely.
So then it should seem like that everything should went smoothly as far as prosecution and all that, correct?
Well, no, not correct.
Okay, well, what
Not
happened?
correct. You know, the Trayvon Martin issue has been going on for a very long time. And I discuss it in the book about the injustice. The boys actually admitted to the shooting.
Okay.
One boy he actually took his gun, hid it in the alley, and the police that night told him, go home, get some rest, opposed to arresting this young man and getting his gun. Told him, go home, get some rest. Eyewitness, gas station clerks, attendants, and another girlfriend of my daughter, all of them testified to who did the shooting and hold on yards. Well, the young man who was identified as to have shot the fatal bullet did admit and said, I'm sorry, didn't mean to shoot the poor little girls. Quote.
Okay.
This was his actual third time being charged with murder.
Third time, but he's still walking out on the
But
streets.
he's still on the street.
Okay.
The other young man was not prosecuted at all. They could not find his weapon. He was the one that was told to go home.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
The driver of the car of where the young man who did the fatal shooting was in, he was actually sentenced to life.
So you're telling me that the driver that carried the young man who did the actual shooting,
That never touched a weapon.
the driver who never touched the weapon was
That's
sentenced
correct.
to life, but the shooter
Is out on
who
the
killed
street.
2 people is out on the streets.
The other
never did any time.
never did.
And the other one that was involved in the shooting
is out on the street.
out on the streets and didn't
Never.
even get prosecuted.
No, absolutely not. And they are unable to give me any valid reason as to why.
So not only were you going through the grief of a loss of a child, here you are facing a justice system that is seeming unfair to you, so justice couldn't prevail.
Absolutely.
So how do you deal with that?
In addition to that,
Okay.
the young man was actually shooting at my home to intimidate me to back down and go away.
Okay.
You know,
Wow.
now this is where I know Christ lives in me.
Okay.
He brought me through it, first and foremost. He allowed me to go through it without being violent or retaliating.
Okay.
I work in the justice system for 15 years. That's my ministry as a nonprofit. So I have worked with the murderers, the robbers, the rapists. So therefore, I know a lot of the crime that is being done on the street is as of a retaliation, and God would not allow me to have that sense of action in me.
Oh, that's good.
For 2 reasons. You know, 1, He lives in me.
Amen.
2, the many years I have taught children on the street, this is not the way you do it.
Yes.
I could not be a hypocrite,
That's right.
no matter what.
thank
And my daughter would have been proud of me taking that type of action. That's not her character and it's not mine. Thirdly, God told me to do something I did not want to do. You know how He gives you those difficult tasks.
And what was this difficult task that he gave you?
Being transparent.
Okay. And so is that where your book came through?
The book came out of me being transparent, me being very real about what you actually go through. You know, we have our grief counseling agencies who does it by the book. And I'm not knocking the carnal counseling.
Okay.
However, when you're battling with the enemy,
Right.
you need more than that. You need spiritual counseling. You go through different types of warfare. The enemy comes in to steal, kill, and destroy. He's killed my daughter. He was definitely trying to destroy me and my family. And I had to recognize that. And I had to seek deep within beyond of what grief I was feeling, because this went further. This went to the point where I'm angry with God. And I'm just keeping it transparent.
Yeah, that's what you can do on the
as
show.
He told me.
That's right.
I'm angry with God. God, I've done all you asked me to do. I've done these things. Nothing, no sin I feel as though I've ever done, and I have sinned and fall short,
That's all,
as we
all
all.
of us.
But there was no sin I felt I have done that warrant my child dying a very violent death. So I'm angry, you know, to the point where I would go to church, but I refused to worship. I would sit there in the front row like,